House Speaker Dade Phelan is also projected to win his primary runoff. Phelan presided over the impeachment trial of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Now, President Trump tried to flex his muscles in the runoff supporting Phelan's challenger. Do you think this was a blow to Trump's influence in Texas?
The great Republican Civil War has had yet another casualty, folks, and not just some rank-and-file Confederate soldier. Nay, this man was hand-selected, endorsed, anointed, some might say, by the big guy downstairs himself. A Mr. Donald Trump-backed candidate for the Texas House speakership just narrowly lost his special election battle. If only he had heeded General Lee's advice.
And the statement of Robert E. Lee, who's no longer in favor, did you ever notice that? No longer in favor. Never fight uphill, me boys, never fight uphill.
Truly, this will go down as Texas's Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, wow.
And we'll break down the cast of characters, which include some names you probably know, like disgraced but somehow even more powerful than before his impeachment Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, as well as the man who led his impeachment, Dade Phelan. We'll show not only the true limits of Trump's power over Republican primary elections, but also just how chaotic and internally divided Republicans are, even at the state level. And at the heart of this battle, deemed by one side as the fight for the soul of Texas, is Attorney General and Trump loyalist Ken Paxton, who, similarly to his cult leader, was impeached by the Texas House on charges of bribery.
Texas may be a red state, but Republicans there are seeing red for a man who was once considered a rising star within their party. The state's Republican-led House of Representatives voted to impeach Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton just yesterday on articles that included bribery and abuse of public trust.
He put the interest of himself over the citizens of the state of Texas.
Now, why, you may ask, would Texas Republicans vote to oust one of their most prominent figures nearly 3 years after a cascade of allegations against him first surfaced, and in the midst of an ongoing federal allegation, and 8 years after he was first indicted on felony security fraud charges? In an ideal world, you could argue that these state legislators saw a great injustice and felt the need to right that wrong. But sadly, we don't live in an ideal world right now. In reality, the Texas House of Representatives had 3.3 million reasons to impeach Attorney General Paxton. As the Austin American-Statesman newspaper points out, a $3.3 million settlement against Paxton put him on the path to yesterday's impeachment vote. You see, a whistleblower lawsuit brought against Paxton accused him of using his authority to help a donor and receive personal gifts. And who exactly did Paxton want to foot the bill of that lawsuit? Oh, the good people of Texas. In fact, the statement from the Texas House Speaker, Dade Phelan spokeswoman, obtained by the Statesman reads this: this process was initiated as a result of the Attorney General's request for $3.3 million in state funds in order to settle with whistleblowers. The Attorney General made this demand of the legislature without providing sufficient information or evidence in support of his request. In other words, we may look the other way when you act the fool, but ask us to pay, and this isn't cool. As for Paxton's future, the now suspended Attorney General tweeted that he looks forward to, quote, a quick resolution in the Texas Senate where I have a full confidence the process will be fair and just. Now, Ken Paxton's wife, Angela, is a member of the Texas Senate, so you might expect this trial to bode well for him. But there's one catch, and it is personal. The articles of impeachment against Paxton include an allegation that he used his position to land a job for his mistress. And a mistress doesn't usually sit well with the missus.
Good old family values. But the missus couldn't vote, and he was ultimately acquitted by the Senate. Even though the Republican-led House impeached him in a vote of 121 to 31, none of the articles of impeachment received the 21 votes needed to convict Paxton in the Senate, with only 2 Republicans joining Democrats on some articles. Which is just so classic. When a Republican accepts bribes and does shady business dealings and cheats on his wife, other Republicans must step in to proclaim their family values and respect the rule of law by taking a Trumpian-sized dump all over the rule of law. And anyone who stands up to them, even in their own party, must be cast out and ostracized for daring to challenge their authority.
I am a cop, and you will respect my authority.
And of course, Paxton's defense echoed Donald Trump's rhetoric, calling the trial a political witch hunt and shaming Dade Phelan, who led the impeachment effort. In fact, they even got Tiny Fingers himself to put out this message, urging Texas voters not to re-elect Dade Phelan and to instead support his rival, David Covey.
The great state of Texas, I love you, but there is a very important Republican runoff election on Tuesday for many important races up and down the ballot. In particular, Speaker Dade Phelan has done a horrible, absolutely horrible job. He's really been bad at election theft and election interference. He's bad, bad, bad for the Republican Party and democracy. We need him beaten and beaten badly. We need strong America First leadership in the great state of Texas, so please get out and vote Tuesday.
Which is depressingly hilarious because, of course, in classic Republican fashion, everything they accuse the other side of is an admission of guilt on their behalf. Because just a couple months ago, a Texas appeals court ruled that Ken Paxton can face discipline from the State Bar Association over his failed effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
We've learned Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton can face discipline over an effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The state's appeals court issuing that ruling today. This involves a disciplinary committee of the State Bar of Texas who wants to sanction him in his personal capacity as an attorney and not as a public official. Paxton's attorney says that they're going to appeal to the Supreme Court of Texas.
And you would think that attorneys constantly shilling lies and even losing their bar licenses over their support for Trump and their own election fraud would be enough to convince people with properly functioning prefrontal cortices that maybe these people are committing crimes. But alas, Ken Paxton is still in office and still has overwhelming support. With the Texas Tribune reporting that the latest polling from the University of Texas at Austin found that while Paxton's approval rating with all voters was at a 2-year low, he remained popular with Republicans by a 2-to-1 margin. They've utterly destroyed him, but if you look at the polling data, he's still extremely strong, said Bob Stein, a political scientist at Rice University. My guess is he's not going away. But despite far-right MAGA Republicans' staunch support for criminality and disgraceful behavior, the Trump and Paxton-backed candidate narrowly lost, and Dade Phelan emerged victorious by the slimmest of margins. And even though he himself is also a Republican, that didn't stop the dog whistling from the far right that claimed it was yet again another stolen election. Because even if you lose to other Republicans, elections are only legitimate when you have your way entirely. And Ken Paxton railed against the legitimate process of democracy in a lengthy statement saying, "We cannot stand idly by. We must close our primaries. Tonight, weak and liberal Republican incumbents lost across the state of Texas, but Democrats swooped in and saved Dade Phelan. This kind of underhanded manipulation cannot be tolerated. The Republican Party of Texas must take immediate action to secure our Republican primaries." My message to Austin is clear. To those considering supporting Dade Phelan as Speaker in 2025, ask your 15 colleagues who lost re-election how they feel about their decision now. You will not return if you vote for Dade Phelan again. So as nice as it is to see someone of the old Republican ilk winning and showing that Trump's sway is waning, it is clear that Republicans will stop at nothing, even if it means cannibalizing their own party from the inside out, to make sure they sow doubt about elections and undermine the legitimacy of any race that doesn't go their way. And on top of that, and arguably the reason why, is so they can continue to shield themselves from facing any accountability for their corruption and fraud. Here's hoping that Trump's trial sends them another strong signal of how that will work out for them. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for coverage of the Trump trial jury verdict, as well as full legal analysis as soon as a decision is made there. And let me know your thoughts on this primary election specifically, as well as on the sorry state of this Republican Party in those comments down below. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.